Who doesn't want the kind of love that comes in and sweeps you off your feet? I mean, I know I did. I wanted someone to come in, not necessarily on the white horse, because white horses, well, not white horses, but horses, period. Freak eyes are real big and it's, ugh, they're beautiful creatures, but I just, I don't want to be close to them, okay? But I wanted someone to come in and someone who could make my heart skip a beat, someone who would give me butterflies in my stomach, make my palms sweaty, just make my soul sing, someone who just, make me tingle all the way down to my toes. I wanted that. I wanted every element of that type of love. And I got that ideology from historical romances. And I'm thinking maybe that could be what has kept me single for the last 19 years. Hmm. Well, there are 3 points I'm going to discuss today to see if we can put this together. Are historical romances or fictionalized romances really that damaging? I believe that love should sweep you off your feet early, like as in an early age. Anything past, I don't know, 2021 was too late. And this was coming from a young girl. I think maybe I was about in a fourth or fifth grade when I started reading historical romance novels. Because you see, I loved books. I loved reading. I I became engrossed in it. I mean, I would read anything I could get my hands on. And so I was reading so much and advancing so much in reading that that I basically ran out of books that interested me that was in my um in my age range, in my reading range for my age or even, beyond. And I wanted something with more variety. And so I actually picked up reading from my grandmama, and my grandmama absolutely loved like these historical romance novels. And so she is the one who actually started me off reading the historical romance novels because she started passing her books down to me. And when I read the first one, ooh, child, I fell in love with it. I mean, okay, so no 10-year-old should be reading about heated loins and heaving bosoms and stuff like that. Hey, to each his own, but I was too young for it. However, I was a little bit more mature to handle it because I was able to, I at first it was like the history of it. I love history. I ended up getting my degree in history, as a matter of fact. So I love history. I love the reading about the like I guess you call it the like the B stories or the side stories that were happening. It gave me a lot of detail about what was going on at the time, which really captured my interest as well. But um, it was the books. It was the stories for me, the romances. And so, as a child, as a 10-year-old, I'm thinking, okay, I need to find. I'm going to fall in love early, so I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go. I'm going to study being a doctor or a lawyer. There were only like two choices back then. So since I couldn't stand the sight of blood, it was automatically going to be a lawyer. So I said after 22, that's 4 years of undergrad. I am going to graduate from college. And then after that, I knew I had to go to law school. Now, this is how young my mind was. I said I was going to get married and go to law school at the same time and be done with that by like 26. years old. And then after that, me and my husband, we were going to start on the first of our four children. By the time I was 26. So, and I was going to have my kids back to back to back to back to back. So I'm sorry, you hear me meowing. That is my kitty. I'm going to pause the video for a second and go see what she needs. Okay, I'm back. It's amazing to me how cats can tell time. So, she knew it was time for her to eat. I thought I fed her, but I think she ate all that food. So anyway, I had to give her a little bit more water. She's fine. But like I was saying, I was 10 years old and I had planned all of this, for my life, everything that I was going to do. So, and if I'm looking down the line, it's because I'm looking at my bullet points. So I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But you know, if I wasn't married and having kids by 30, gosh, I was a spinster. And it was never going to happen for me after that point. Like, who was going to want somebody over 30 years old? Like, I had all of this time to get my act together to, be swept away in a romance and things like that. But spoiler alert, it did not happen. So I guess according to my historical romances I used to read, I am officially a spinster. Dun dun dun.
Anyway, I'm a spinster, aren't I? And spinsters live alone.
So that's my first unrealistic expectation that I got from reading those type of fictionalized romances, that everything had to happen early. Like, if you were not a, I don't know, 20-year-old virgin, then love was not, you were not going to find love. And that would have been it for you. Realistic expectation number two, I believe that love should be passion first instead of purpose. I believe that all of the, like, for your romantic hero, they had to be an alpha male, mm, strong, protective, and capable of making your knees buckle with just one look. They had to be in control and show no emotions. Like, you better not cry in front of me.
Are you crying?
I'm not crying.
That's what I thought. I mean, I even had a thing. It kind of still bothers me a little bit down, but I'm working on it. God's still working on me. But I could instead skip there and eat chicken nuggets. I'm like, you a whole grown man. You got to go get a chicken strip or a whole piece of chicken, but it should not be cut down to a nugget. God's working on me, okay? I'm sorry. If you're a man and you like chicken nuggets, go ahead and eat your chicken nuggets. I will not judge you. I promise. I'm sorry. I'm still being worked on with that. But I had all of these expectations from, romantic heroes from the stories that I read. And sorry, I'm still want to make sure I didn't miss that part. I should have had my mouse with this. It would have been easier to scroll, but instead I'm trying to use a touch screen and it doesn't want to work like I want it to right now. Yeah. So I believe that if a man couldn't liquefy my knees or other body parts, then why bother? So instead of asking, you know, seeking the kind of partner God had for me, one who would strengthen my weaknesses and lean on my strengths, and vice versa. I could, lean on his strengths and strengthen his weaknesses. I was looking for that fantasy because that's what I had in my head. I had that type of romantic fantasy in my head, that I got from all of these fictionalized romance novels. You know, um, like I'm trying to think of what. Of course, we know Julia Quinn, Bridgerton, love those books. Okay, I would side note before everybody jumped on the Bridgerton train on Netflix. I had already read all those books back in the day. Like she was definitely one of my favorite authors back in the day. But yeah. So back from the side note, every in my search for looking for like that alpha male, sorry, every boyfriend I ever had was decent. They were, that I have nothing against um really any of the boyfriends that I dated. Um but none of them had that mm, that just that ugh, no one was making my knees buckle. So it was like the way I got into relationships when I was younger. Oh, eyelashes and glasses don't mix. But the way I got into relationships back in the day was if a guy thought that I was cute, thought I was nice, or whatever, you know, we would talk. He would take me out on a date, and then suddenly we were like in a relationship. And I was like, okay. It's like I just was like, okay, in a relationship. And I was never happy because I was always searching for for that fantasy. I was always searching for that romantic hero, that alpha male, that I wanted. Um, Now, let me scroll up in my notes so I can get this. There was the one guy, we're going to call him Devin. He checked all the boxes from the books, everything that I was searching for in a romantic hero. But Boo Bear, this man was far from the one for me. And we are going to get into more stories about Devin in future videos. So make sure you stay tuned for that. This, I am telling you, this is good. This is going to be good. But just to sum up, unrealistic expectation number two, yeah, I wanted every man to be like the heroes in those books, and I didn't get not one. So that's Devin, we're excluding him right now. But not one boyfriend I ever had was that. So I was never going to be satisfied because I didn't understand what a true partnership, not relationship, but a true partnership was back then. You know, God still had to work on me. Unrealistic expectation number three. So I suffered from escapism. I was losing myself in fictional love stories. You see, my grandmama, I loved my grandmama. I loved her. She passed away in 2018. And I love my granddaddy. He's still living. But theirs was not a great love story. Heck, theirs wasn't even a love story. Theirs was more of a necessity, like so many, I guess, Southern Black couples went through back in the day.
Who the daddy?
And so it was more about survival, like, okay, well, we need to get together. So, and I need to get out my daddy's house. So let's go and be together and raise this family, whatever. But, whatever it was, I just know that there was another man who was the love of her life that didn't want to be with her. And so she was put in a situation to where she ended up with my granddaddy, a man that, was second choice. And first of all, no man, a man wants respect and from his woman and love from his woman. And he definitely doesn't want to feel or be treated as second best. And on the other hand, too, my grandmama, she wanted that love of her life. And with them having to marry each other, the only way she could deal with that was to escape through the stories, escaping the historical romance novels that she was reading. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was escaping as well. I was following right in her footsteps because, there was look, I didn't have a happy childhood. I didn't have like parents who were so deeply in love with each other either. I didn't have that. And I'm the oldest out of 8 kids. So if you know, you know, there are duties of of the oldest child to do. And so my guilty pleasure was reading these books, just take me away from everything that's happening in my life right now. Let me get away from it. Like I I was living in these stories. I could finish 1 to 2 books a week. I and I don't care if I was in a relationship or not. I wasn't getting what I wanted in those relationships because it was never who I really wanted to be with. I wanted to be with this man that was in this book. That's who I wanted. But I wasn't getting it. So I had to stay in the story. I had to stay I had to stay in it. It was y'all, this was like an addiction for me. But I didn't think anything was wrong because it wasn't like drugs, it wasn't drinking, it wasn't sex, it wasn't any other type of vice like that. I was just reading a book and just getting lost in that story until one day, um, my mom, she had read a study, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name of the study. She can't either. But there was a study that said that, here, it says how romantic, reading romantic stories like that can do more harm than good because you do escape through them and you try and look for that reality. You try to make that fantasy your reality out here in the real world. And when you can't find it, you just continue to withdraw into it. And when my mom told me the story of my grandmama, how that's how she lived her entire life. Like my grandma just read and just read. She didn't go out and do anything else. She stayed in those books. She lived in those stories her whole life. And the minute I realized that was what I was doing after my mom told me about that study, I think this was like 2004, 2005, something like that. I put the books down and I have never read another historical romance or romance book, period. I may look at like movies from time to time. Like I love rom coms. The Proposal, that's my movie. I love it. I love it. Um, and it's so many other movies that can think of right now. Like I love Bridgerton. I love the uh, Pride and Prejudice. Love those stories. Love it. But I have to keep a balance. I understand it. I have to keep a balance and know what my reality is and what fantasy is. Yeah, so that is unrealistic expect- expectation number three. Actually, it's like a more of a realistic consequence of reading so many fictionalized romance books. You suffer through that escapism, wanting that type of love. Fictional. You So I say all that to say with these unrealistic expectations that yes, letting go of these stories for me was terrifying. It was like when I put down the books, I was opening my eyes to the world again, and I was like, okay, I need to go out here and live. Um, I don't blame books for my singleness, but I do acknowledge that they shaped my way of thinking. They shaped what I was expecting in a relationship. Um, God had to break and rebuild my perspective on love so that I could be ready for the love that He is preparing for me. Um, and maybe, just maybe, He's doing the same thing for you. Maybe you are suffering from some type of unrealistic expectations on love that God is waiting for you to get the revelation of. So let me know in the comments below if you have some, what are your unrealistic expectations on love? Or do you feel like that fictionalized romance stories have shaped your perspective on relationships in any kind of way? Okay. Um, well, until next time, I'm going to be talking about how being single for 19 years, God has actually prepared me to receive love. So make sure you click on this next video. Thank you, Boo Bears. I love you, and I will see you next time. Bye.